Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Happy Monday. Thanks for joining to not only get high at 9 with us yet again, but also high noon on the East Coast. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, and I'd first like to give a big rest in peace and love out to the streets for the death of Keenan Anderson, tased to death 7 times by LAPD last week. May his family find peace, and may they get the justice that they deserve. It is Monday, January 16, 2023, National Without a Scalpel Day, because 30 million Americans still don't have health insurance. National Religious Freedom Day, a reminder that you're free to pray to whomever you believe's in charge, but America bows only to the almighty dollar. And if you ain't a Christian, good luck. And finally, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a federal observance of the clergyman, activist, radical civil rights movement pacifist who was taken out by his own government for speaking out against oppression of its people. For everybody out there watching, please remember to like, share, follow us at High at 9 News across all social media platforms, and beat that subscribe button down. We're live on weekdays on YouTube and Twitch, audio only on Clubhouse. And if you choose the Clubhouse route, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story presented. And we're going to be getting things started here in just a few seconds. But first, we have this. Oh, yeah, y'all know what time it is. Coming up first to the motherfucking mic is the man, the myth, the legend. Some call him Kaiser Brose when you're out here on the West Coast. If you're out there on the East Coast, you might be called either Gucci Blanco down in Florida, or it might be White Gucci if you're up in Detroit. But when he is in his downtime and not caught up by TMZ relaying messages of freedom to Donald Trump, while he's sitting adjacent to him in a tanning booth. You can catch him here on High at 9 News. As my co-host is Jason Beck. What do you have for us today? The longest continuously operating retailer in the world.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Thank you so much for that. I hope everybody had a great weekend, and happy MLK Day to everybody out there. But today, my story is a timely one, because as Missouri rolls out legal weed, regulators create a new role. That's right, Chief Marijuana Equity Officer. The position will oversee the equity measure that legalization campaign supporters boast to be the first of its kind in the nation, a micro-license program designed to boost opportunities in the marijuana industry for businesses in disadvantaged communities. The constitutional amendment legalizing adult-use cannabis in Missouri won voter approval in November, but created a scheme among social justice activists over the question of racial and economic equity. Some believe the new law will empower minority marijuana business owners, while others worry it will cement an already distrusted and equitable business licensing system in place. Much rides on who was selected for Chief Equity Officer by the Department of Health and Human Services, the state agency tasked with overseeing the marijuana program. By law, the state must have a Chief Equity Officer for its marijuana program in place by February 6th, a position meant to ensure the social and economic equality requirements of Missouri's new marijuana law are met. A DHSS spokesperson said the department will be announcing their Chief Equity Officer soon. Missouri's Amendment 3 laid out specific deadlines for expungement provisions, but courts and legal advocates say there are still unanswered questions about how exactly the process will work. The department posted the position on the state's job listing website, Missouri Careers, from November 29th through December 9th, according to Lisa Cox with DHSS spokeswoman. And she says, our positions post for 10 days externally and internally, Cox said. Our jobs are usually picked up and advertised in LinkedIn and Indeed as well. We are working through the process, and an announcement will be coming soon, she says. According to the job posting, the Chief Equity Officer is described as a leadership position within Missouri's Division of Cannabis Regulation. The officer will report directly to the division director and will exercise significant independence while also working closely with other teams within the division, the job posting states. The Chief Equity Officer will oversee the equity measure that legalization campaign supporters boast to be the first of its kind in the nation, a micro-license program designed to boost opportunities in the industry for businesses in disadvantaged communities. The officer's responsibilities include leading communication about the program and conducting reviews to certify micro businesses are eligible applicants and are in good standing for licensure. That person will also create and promote educational programming around the licensing processes and available support and resources for individuals applying for microbusiness licenses. The officer will establish targeted technical assistance programs to communities impacted by cannabis prohibition and complete an annual report on compliance. Adolphus Pruitt, president of the St. Louis City NAACP chapter, was among those who pushed for the creation of a social equity officer position as part of the legalization campaign. The NAACP sent out notices about the position, but Pruitt said he was unsure about how many people applied. Among the officer's most important responsibilities, Pruitt said, is contributing to an annual report that provides aggregate data for each contributing to an annual report that an aggregate data for each type of license. This could be the path forward for minority inclusion goals for Missouri's marijuana industry, he said. The report should include demographic characteristics of business owners, Pruitt says, and their employees, which would put the state one step closer towards weighing racial diversity in the license application process. But in order for Missouri to stave off the court challenges often by white-owned businesses against such a move, the state must conduct a disparity study, Pruitt said. The aggregate data would serve the same purpose as the disparity study. Without having data, there ain't much we can do, Pruitt told The Independent in November. If the state enacts minority participation goals without data, they will sue and we will lose. We've been down that road before, they said. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the story right there. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say about this. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News Hour. Is this going to be the key that other municipalities are going to need to employ? And will New Jersey and New York get in a Twitter war with this Missouri officer? What do you think?
My initial thoughts are, I think it's important to have someone in a role like this. However, again, and I say this every single time social equity comes up, until there is like a true definition that we can all agree, like what social equity means, I think that person, whoever winds up in this role, is going to find themselves up against tons of challenges and tons of opposition just because of that simple fact that the definition is so wide and yet so specific at the same time. So I don't know. Good luck, whoever that is. I wouldn't want that job.
Yeah, I think this appointment is more symbolic than anything else, and we'll see if they have any power at all. And I think it's peculiar that they chose the same acronym. They chose CEO as well. As well, he could think of something else. Put those letters in a different order or something.
I don't know.
I wonder if Kat Packer applied for this job.
Because she has all the clout in Missouri as much
mean,
as she did out here.
Yeah, and she'll be able to use the LA system as a part of her job application. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I did this over here.
I mean, judging from my last conversation with Kat, I don't think she's willing to hop into the political arena quite in that capacity anytime soon.
I mean, I do think that it would be very important for someone who perhaps either has owned or is applying for or connected to some kind of cannabis business. It has to be a cannabis operator who jumps into these roles.
Well, you don't think it could be a policy person?
What?
You don't think it could be a policy person?
I definitely don't think it could be a policy person.
Really?
It has to be someone who's been in the trenches. It has to be someone who's been affected by this. It has to be someone who speaks the language of this plant.
Right
because
on.
if we don't, we just completely miss the mark again in this role. So I hope whoever is hiring for this gets to see this show. We should make sure we send them a clip of this show.
Right on. I'm so glad you said that.
I think my buddy Epen would be a perfect person for this position. He's out there in Missouri, and he is part of more in the regulatory, lobbying type of framework. I don't know, Gretchen, do you know Epen?
I do not.
Okay.
There are a ton of California operators or former operators, folks who did not choose to renew their licenses this year because of the regulatory system in California, who would probably be spectacular for this role. So,
Yeah, I echo your sentiments there, Mandy. I think it needs to be somebody that's actually been in the trenches, and also somebody who has fought those wars and has been through a little bit of something that'll be effective. And I think that's one of the issues that happened out here, with Kat Packer. Like a lot of people love her, some people hate her, but she did not have the necessary experience to really know what it's like to be in the trenches and to run a business. And she was hampered from the beginning because of that, and ended up being a scapegoat for a lot of the government's inherent issues. So
that poses a whole nother question. Go ahead, Gretchen.
I disagree with this premise that it can't be a policy person. I mean, frankly, you guys talk about needing someone in the trenches. You need someone who can actually navigate policy, navigate the regulatory system to get something accomplished.
Nothing's been accomplished
by
people.
That people who work in the industry aren't capable of doing that. I've been doing that for a decade. So as Jason's been doing it for 2. I think
you guys aren't applying for this job.
Or anyone who's a policymaker has had plenty of opportunity to affect our industry
and they have not done it.
I wonder what does this position pay?
Actually know what it's like to operate a business in this space, step up and get put in these roles, period. Like to have another legislator who's only done.
I'm not saying legislator. Yeah. I didn't say legislator. I'm saying
anybody, a policy person, anybody.
I'm saying a policy person who knows the in and outs and the bullshit of what you have to do to actually get things passed, where the money is, how to make the government work for you. It's one thing to have ideas, to understand. I think, frankly, what you need in these types of roles are 2 people. You do need someone from industry who helps, and then you need someone who's actually been in government to work together. It drives me nuts that we're trying to find this chupacabra person to fix the entire fucking industry. They don't exist.
Chupacabra. How about this? How about this?
I like that part. Not a chupacabra.
It's the chupacabra.
I actually do like that addition to the statement, Gretchen. But I would add a 3rd person there because 3 is always better than 2.
I mean,
maybe no. Well, how about
is this person?
Somebody legislator, and then you need a tiebreaker in there too.
Is this person going to be destined to fail? Do you think that the system is just set up?
Yes,
for them to ultimately fail.
Yes,
no matter who it is.
Yes,
I think it's hard to create these roles being created by someone who, when we can't even define social equity, or we have no good models for what this is or what it should be. Yeah, I think
there are actually some really good models out there. There's a lot of folks who do have policy experience that are also social equity qualified by their local municipalities or states. There is a lot. But the problem is those folks, those people who have both skill sets, are incredibly busy. Christine De La Rosa from the People's Ecosystem. She is on the NCIA board of directors and has written a white paper about what social equity really should be like. It's dynamic. It's well said. I mean, literally anybody who's creating a social equity platform in their municipality should read this white paper at the very least.
It is a community conversation to be had, but just like you said, Manndie, I personally believe that it should be coming from somebody who's been in the struggle.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for entertaining that story. We're gonna keep it moving right along. Coming up next, we have the dope dad himself. That's right, Rico Lamitte. When Rico is not babysitting, cooking breakfast, making eggs and bacon and sausage and pork patties, you can find him feeding grown-ass adults at a TEDx convention, feeding them all kinds of rhetoric and bullshit, all from the stage, and their little minds just devour it so well. That's right. It is the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for that another illustrious introduction, Jason. My headline today is from by Stephen M. Lepore for dailymail.com. DC retiree 76 launches landmark lawsuit against the city over 73-year-old neighbor's weed smoke, which she claims is contaminating her home and ruining her life. 70 God damn it. 76-year-old Josefa Ippolito Shepard's finding out the hard way the only way to kill a roach in a DC apartment complex is to go full DEFCON K and sue the pothead neighbor and the whole goddamn city because the marijuana smoke's invaded your home and it's ruining your life. Per the article, Ippolito Shepard suing the District of Columbia over the smell coming from neighbor Thomas Cackett, 73-year-old, which she says made it hard for her to breathe, sleep, and live. I have the right to breathe fresh air into my home, Ippolito Shepard said. I'm not talking about if I go to someone else's house or place people go to smoke pot. They have the freedom to do whatever. I just do not want to be invaded in my own home. She claims to have lived there at the complex for 30 years, will never move, and is asking the city to ban smoking in multi-unit buildings. Cackett and his roommate, Angela Farsaratu, who both rent an accessory apartment in the unit, and both say the sweet sesamina smell is not their fault and its effects are not their responsibility. The article says Ippolito Shepard is acting as her own attorney and says she's prepared to take the case to the highest court necessary. She believes the smoke got in through the cracks in her stairs behind a web of pipes under her kitchen sink and asked the landlord to evict Cackett and tell him to stop smoking inside. Both the city and landlord responded respectfully, telling her to kick rocks. Cannabis consumption's been legalized in D.C. since 2015, so she doesn't have a clear path for the complaint. Washington, D.C. City Council Chairman Phil Mendelson said the only way to fix the problem would be to ban the substance, and Ippolito Shepard, respecting the power of cannabis sativa L as being well beyond her comprehension and reach, said that that is not her end goal. DC legalized medical cannabis in 2010 and recreational consumption in 2015, and surprisingly, the lawsuit's first of its kind, but the smell of cigarettes in similar cases set precedent and may provide a path forward indeed for Queen Karen's complaint. The Daily Mail references in 1976, the state of New Jersey's Superior Court ruled in favor of an office worker who sued her employees for letting coworkers smoke at their desks, and hundreds of lawsuits have followed over tobacco. But with cannabis law still in its infancy, the issue on how far this complaint will go remains cloudy. Ippolito Shepard's trial begins this week, and Cackett, who's too busy enjoying his freedom to light up living room L's, is yet to comment publicly on the suit. Farsaratu, her roommate, on the other hand, said that she felt sorry for Ippolito Shepard, probably before taking a few more hits to better drive the message home. While I obviously side 100% with the defendants in this situation. I can definitely see how this could be an issue going forward in apartment complexes. And if it were me with a small child in the same situation, I'd probably be pissed off too. However, little Shepherd's old enough to understand how gentrification works. And if she don't like the turn for worse her beloved inner city's taken, she's absolutely free to take her talents across the state border into Karen-friendly confines of Loudoun County, where I'm sure she'll feel her life less ruined. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. What do y'all think about this one?
I can't imagine anybody's life being ruined by this. But
I dealt with this firsthand because I have one of these ladies as a neighbor, and I am not allowed to smoke in my apartment now, or in my condo, and I am subject to a $500 fine by the HOA anytime I'm caught smoking inside my unit.
Really?
However, they cannot stop me from dabbing because that is considered vaporization.
Yep.
And this is all because of the Clean Air Act and the state of California saying that cannabis is a known carcinogen. And so therefore, I think ultimately the defendant is probably going to lose this case.
So
go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, is it legal for you to vape indoors?
Yeah, yes, because it's no smoke. The whole thing is about carcinogens. So I could hit a vape pen, I could dab, I could any of these other things. But the reality of it is this: is for my medical condition, smoking is the only thing that helps me. Vaping doesn't do it. And so therefore I'm treated like a third-class citizen. And it's like, and I have to walk by these people's houses every day, and I smell the food that they're making, and it literally makes me want to puke when you smell the shit that they cook.
Jason hates food.
I hate their food. And so I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And I want to file the same suit because they're basically saying that it's because of the smell, which is all about terpenes. And so therefore, those food terps that they produce, I think should be banned from the building too, because it hampers my quality of life.
What if you were to cook with weed, Jason?
I thought about doing that just to piss them all off. I thought about doing that, but then I'm going to have to learn how to cook.
No, just get a pressure cooker and a whole bunch of trim and put it in there. It'll smell fine.
Dude. I mean, I have a crock pot. I'm totally fine with like making some butter and just like making butter for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do have Dr. Felicia from the Clubhouse audience to comment on this. What do you have to say about this, Dr. Felicia?
Happy Martin Luther King Day, everybody. I had a similar situation at my office. I used to burn sage in my office at the end of every week, and I got a complaint from one or more tenants that I was doing cannabis in my office, and my landlord told me I had to quit. So I found an alternative, which was I guess an essential oil where I could squirt it and hopefully kind of do the same thing. But you know, when these units are all connected, I agree. Everyone should have the right to breathe what they want to breathe. If you want to breathe clean air or just air, you should have that right in your own home. And if you want to do cannabis or smoke it, whatever, you should have the right to do that too. So I think a better solution would be for landlords to do something with the air conditioning units to hopefully confine things to the person's unit, or find some other workaround, because everyone deserves to breathe the air that they want to breathe.
Well, at the same time, Dr. Felicia, I mean, no one's stopping them from breathing air. This is just something that they're smelling, so they're thinking that there's something in the air. It's just a terpene. It's just a smell. It's an aroma. Like,
well, cannabis smoke is more than terpenes, so it is actually it's
combustion products too.
Yes, ma'am.
It's combustion products too. If you're smoking, it's combustion products too.
Yep.
Either way, I don't know how she is able to sue the city. I mean, knock herself out. I agree with Dr. Felicia. I think this is something that should be a fight with the landlord to be better ventilation systems in their units. He should be filling the cracks in between the stairs so the smell isn't getting in. These measures should be done first before we're going to the extent of suing each other over this. I don't think she's going to win the case. But I think the landlord should absolutely step up and try and meet her concerns.
She's totally going to win this case in DC, in liberal-controlled DC. She's 100% going to win this case.
Are you kidding me?
Well, here's the thing. I hope this whole
100%.
thing is televised
Why do
because
you think
she is
she's
going to be
gonna
representing
win?
herself, Jason.
Because
She's
liberals
representing
are
herself.
all the ones that try to ban any kind of smoking or any type of carcinogenic and whatever, because it's always the liberals that are doing that. What do you have to say on this, Chris? I saw your hand up.
Who's really like right now?
Chris, you're cutting in and out. We're getting only like one word out of you.
Is that better?
You're breaking up like
You're
Justin
breaking
and
up,
Selena,
bro.
Like Justin and Selena.
See if you're better.
I mean, I think we should talk to Nick Bradley from the audience. Isn't this what he does?
Yeah, it is.
Nick Bradley sells air purification systems, which you
Nick
actually
Bradley,
could
tell your shit. Come on.
Yeah,
What you got to
which you
say
actually
about this?
could. Nick Bradley's
yourself
not
a
even in the
government
house.
contract.
What
Shoot
does
your
having
shot.
a doctor's recommendation do with regards to this, Jason?
Doctor's
Does that-
recommendation just means that the doctor has recommended you to be able to use cannabis, but it does not give you the right to impair the quality of air to your neighbor when you're in a shared wall space, whatever the hell they call it.
What if you put like a charcoal filter inside your house?
Yo, Mandy, I was just gonna say that I got a 3-foot tall charcoal filter with a can fan. The whole setup cost me a couple $100 because I smoke blunts in my studio and my wife does not ever want to smell it outside this door. So I just crack the window and I kick on my can fan and I'm good to go. It pulls the smoke right out of the air. It disappears.
I told my HOA they could go fuck themselves.
Yeah, some of you guys know Chanel Lindsay. She's an activist from the East Coast out in Boston. She actually invented something for dope parents called the Billo. But you can smoke into that shit.
We do have Nick Bradley has joined us in the clubhouse room. What do you have to say about this, Nick? Come tell us about your products.
Shoot your shot, Nick.
What Saint Germain was saying is kind of accurate. Traditional air purifiers that you can purchase at retail remove contaminants down to 10 micron, which are the size of dust particles or pollen. That necessarily, it's not going to remove smoke particles. Smoke particles are small enough to get through that and still bypass that and get out of the space that you're trying to purify. If you're using certified HEPA filtration, which general air purifiers don't have HEPA filtration. HEPA filtration was instituted into like clean room technology. So if you're using HEPA filtration, you're removing down to 0.01 micron, which is removing smoke particles. So air purification can definitely help people that have these type of issues. Jason, I don't know why you haven't called me, but we have solutions that will remove not only the odor, but all of the smoke particles that are
come install one of these units, Nick, and I'll video it and I'll be a test case and I'll see if I get the knock on my door from my neighbors saying that I'm smoking weed in my unit.
What about farts?
I need you to pay for the unit there, Jason.
See, I'm not interested in paying for the unit. I'm not interested in paying my HOA. I'm just
you're not interested in paying.
I'm not interested in paying. Yeah, I'm good.
And on that note, on all that. Let's keep it going. She's a spicy redheaded conservative, and she's a spicy redheaded conservative with Mayflower roots, and she's also become well known in DC circles over years for cooking up bipartisan excellence downstairs in the kitchen, slapping up liberals upstairs on K Street. Up next, you know who it is, the founder of Panoptics Strategies and our very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey.
Good afternoon. My headline is coming from Marijuana Moment. A federal agency urges states to mandate marijuana-impaired driving warning labels as national prohibition blocks broader action. A federal agency released a report on Thursday that urges states that have legalized marijuana to include warning labels on cannabis products that caution against driving while impaired, noting that federal prohibition is a barrier to nationalizing such consumer education to mitigate public safety risk. The NTSB report provides an in-depth overview of the crash risk associated with different drugs, including alcohol, and the prevalence of their use among drivers, as well as countermeasures to reduce impairment-related crashes. One countermeasure that NTSB recommended to states across the U.S. is to mandate marijuana labeling to inform consumers about the dangers of driving after consuming cannabis. The board recognized that several legal states do require such labeling, but pointed out that others don't. Because marijuana remains federally prohibited, there is no federal requirement for labeling cannabis, according to the report. As such, NTSB didn't propose a federal labeling requirement, instead saying that states should take some lessons from other states and Canada, where cannabis is legal nationwide, to develop warning labels that explicitly discourage impaired driving. Meanwhile, there is a standardized warning label for alcohol in the U.S. that's mandated under a federal law enacted in 1988. And while evidence suggests that alcohol labeling had little effect on behavior change, some authors have suggested that even small effects can be meaningful if a product is widely used. A recent study found that among the 31 U.S. states with medical cannabis programs, all have some labeling requirements, and 26 have some requirement for labeling concerning impairment, but not necessarily driving impairment. The report compared marijuana labeling rules in marijuana and Oklahoma as examples of the policy disconnect. In Maryland, medical cannabis products are required to be labeled with a warning about impaired driving. In Oklahoma, the state mandated label only talks about risks of consumption for youth and pregnant or breastfeeding women. An NTSB analysis of laws in the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico identified 23 jurisdictions where cannabis sales are legal, but where cannabis label requirements are not required or are inadequate, according to the report. This includes 12 jurisdictions that have no driving-related label requirements, 4 that have label requirements for only certain cannabis products, and 7 whose labeling requirements do not explicitly warn against driving after cannabis use. Although it is not clear whether the inclusion of driving-related warnings on cannabis labels would influence driver behaviors or reduce crash risk, a recent national survey found that drivers are less likely to perceive driving after cannabis use to be dangerous compared to driving after alcohol use. Additionally, the absence of such labeling, especially when alcohol and many prescription and OTC drugs do include warnings about driving, could lead users to believe that cannabis does not impair driving. The NTSB concludes that including driving-related warnings on cannabis products similar to those on alcohol and many prescription and OTC drugs would increase awareness of the risks of cannabis-impaired driving. Therefore, the NTSB recommends that the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and the 21 states where cannabis use is legal but driving-related cannabis warning labels are not required or are inadequate require a warning label on cannabis products advising users not to drive after cannabis use to its impairing effects. Now, I already know what many of you are going to say because we've heard the arguments many times that cannabis has no effect on your driving or it makes you only go 5 miles per hour. To me, this is not a battle to die for. If they want to put a label on, go for it. It will make the folks who are prohibitionists have to fight a little harder. This is not a battle to lose on. If they want a label, go for it. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Gretchen,
I agree with you on that, Gretchen. This is not the battle to die on the sword on, but it is stupid.
Sword to fall on the hill.
Yeah.
The hill to die on.
There's lots of dumb, stupid stuff, but whatever. This will make prohibitionists happier. This will help people see that we're trying to educate, mitigate risk. You know, this is what people care about. At least policymakers care about.
Give them this and take something else
take some extra time when you're driving.
And at the same time, too, all these warning labels, their print is so small. It's not like anybody that actually needs to read them can actually read them in the first place.
You ever see the warning labels on European cigarettes?
Oh, no. Yeah, it's right big. It's right big in the front. It's their whole package. It's the whole front package. Yeah, it's like a nasty, like tarred up lung, and saying this is from a 9-year smoker. This is what your lungs look like. And they still smoke. It's the whole package. It's the whole front package of the product.
Wow.
Kids smoking in Germany. So keep it going. Like, Gretchen, I do agree with you though. I think this is a compromise that can be made, and if the anti-prohibitionists want something out of it, this is an easy bargaining chip for them. Like, yo, we'll give you this if you give us that.
Yeah, but that's the thing is we can't just give them this without getting something back.
Get something back.
Like, yeah. I'm fine with giving them this if they're going to say that they're not going to go after THC caps or THC taxes. That to me makes sense.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
This is a fair that's a fair trade.
Well, either way, I mean, again, as the NTSB stated, none of this really matters because it's federally illegal and they can't make anyone do anything because there's no national program. But
once they say it, the states are gonna the state regulators are gonna look at something or review or come back to or all of that good stuff.
I think it would be an easy win to give the other side.
It would totally Totally agree.
Politics, all about give and take. Give and take.
Yes. Thank you guys for that. Thank you, Gretchen. Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world, then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order. The thoughts and opinions and general overall shade on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, or territory, or any authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish a fiduciary relationship, and our sponsors do not imply or constitute any endorsement by us or the expression of any opinion whatsoever on the part of any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you. And again, maybe your neighbor should smoke some weed.
Oh, yeah. Up next, he's a fellow dope dad who decided to trade in his issue gun and badge for a blunt and a notepad. When he's not on stage with us reading the weed news, this former NorCal-based cop is a security consultant at CC Security Solutions, dedicating each day to improving each and every one of our chances of survivability. And rather than waiting on safe banking to do what it does up there, he says, stay strapped. My friends, stay strapped. Coming to stage next, y'all know who it is, Chris Eggers.
Rico, always with the intros, man. Article today it's a bit of a long article, so I trimmed it down and I'm going to share it today. It's out of SF Gate. Headline is Crisis Mode: Failing Pot Farms Are Killing This California's Town's Economy. This is about Garberville. Not long ago, Garberville could have held the title of California's busiest towns without a stoplight. Thousands of tourists filled the small town restaurants and bars, spending the day looking at the beautiful towering redwood trees nearby and the avenues of the giants. Hundreds of cannabis farms in the surrounding hills of Humboldt County brought millions of dollars to the local economy. Just FYI, they love to refer in this article cannabis farms as pot farms. Laura Lester said, quote, the economy here has crashed. She's the director of operations for the Southern Humboldt Business and Visitors Bureau. The economy in Southern Humboldt is in crisis mode, and 90% of that crisis mode is because of the cannabis industry. Garberville's is the most obvious sign of an economic collapse is that the surrounding Emerald Triangle, a 3-county region that includes Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity counties. For decades, this area was cannabis growing capital, and there's a lot of quotes from various farmers, so I'm just going to skip ahead. One quote I wanted to share first was from a local natural food store owner, because the trickle effect here is pretty significant, to say the least. We relied on so many cannabis farmers and people in the industry to keep our storefronts full and businesses in town. A store owner said, it's hard to see where we are going to go and get that from here on out. The New Yorker once described Garberville as having rough edges of a gold rush town with peace flags and hemp lattes. Wendy Kornberg, the owner of a small cannabis farm 20 minutes down a dirt road of Garberville, said that all the surrounding pot farmers either have gone up or are on the verge of bankruptcy. Quote, everyone is struggling. We all had to raid our kids' college funds, she said. She said that these farm failures have drained the town's economy. She says, quote, I grew up in Garberville from 1977 till I graduated high school in 1995, and I've never seen so many empty storefronts. The whole side of one of the streets is just empty storefronts. It's a little bit terrifying when you look at it from that viewpoint. Bushnell, the county supervisor who represents that part of the county, admitted that the county government could have done more to support local industry. Quote, could we have done better? Yes. Could the state have done better? Absolutely. And, you know, I kind of want to open it up for comments. Again, I think we're going to have a lot of people in the audience and certainly our correspondents that can shed some light and opinions on this. But ultimately, this article touches on the trickle effect of the failing cannabis farms. There's a bunch of different reasons, according to this SF Gate article. I'll let everyone read it and kind of have that debate. But the trickle effect is real. Businesses are closing up. People are struggling. And this is just one use case. So I really appreciated that SF Gate wrote about it and in such length. But it's unfortunately a great use case of point two of when things go wrong and how it affects multiple people across the food chain. So I'd like to hear from the correspondents now, and certainly people in the audience and on Clubhouse to hear what your thoughts are. Obviously, a lot of folks here have friends, colleagues, and other folks that they know that are, in the area that are absolutely affected by this. And then again, the supply chain and how that affects other folks, other license types, other businesses, jobs, and economies up and down the food chain is very significant. So wanted to share that today.
I'm really glad that you brought this story to us today, Chris. I came across it also, and it was something that I really had a lot of feelings around. The city of Garberville specifically is so rich with cannabis history. It's probably one of the strongest cannabis, foundations, so to speak. When you go, if you haven't been to the town of Garberville, when you pull off the freeway, there's literally like some little stores. There's a couple of tiny little restaurants, coffee shops. I think there's one gas station and 2 hotels. And one of them is a Best Western, and the other one is this like vintage hotel next to a old movie theater that's been there for forever. Last I heard, Humboldt's finest owners and founders purchased that theater and that antique hotel, and we're going to refurbish it and make it an Airbnb for cannabis. But it's been a while since I've checked in with them.
Yeah, one of the images in the article is exactly what you just described.
Hey, Manndie, do you think that this the roots of this issue can be tracked to 5 years ago, the lift on the cap on cultivation size?
Absolutely.
By outgoing.
Oh, you know what? Hold on.
Absolutely.
We have Steven in the Clubhouse audience with us, who is actually up there in the Emerald Shrine. No, gross. Sorry. Steven, what do you have to say about this? I know you can provide some in-depth light on this topic.
How many points do you want me to hit on this topic?
Just pick your favorite 2.
My favorite 2. Well, yeah, no, our local economy is crashing. Everything is down 70% as to what it was 2 years ago. That goes from our local health food store closing down. It goes to our local hardware store. That I can go in there at any point of any day of the week, when it used to be hustle and bustle, people building things, people spending money around here. And there's 3 people standing around with their arms crossed, wondering, what the heck they're going to do. And I'm wondering how long a business owner can continue paying their paychecks with them not making any money and still stay open. As far as me as a cannabis cultivator, I just spoke to one of my good friends yesterday. He said, Steven, can't do it anymore. I want to, but I can't. And, I wasn't able to afford my state licensing this year. Because, well, hello, folks. Here we are. And I've been providing, I know a good portion of Orange County with their cannabis for the last 22 fucking years. And here I am. It's terrifying. It's terrible. The only people who can do something about it, though, are the consumers. And you need to educate yourself as to how this cannabis that you're smoking is being produced and who gives a fuck and who doesn't, because we give a fuck. We have given a fuck, and we won't stop giving a fuck. And I won't stop growing cannabis. Friggin', I will still be here on the side of the road in Trinity County with my fingers in the air saying, fuck you, test me, why don't you arrest me? Because you know what? That's how we did it back in the day, and that's how we're going to continue to do it. Because you know what? Somebody's got to get this fucking community some good weed.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I
Thank you so much for that, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Stephen.
I recently spoke to some friends who are just outside of Garberville after the earthquake, checking in with them and seeing how things were going. And, you know, they paint this horrible picture that everyone is referring to. And it's sad. And for those who don't know kind of the geography of Humboldt County, I mean, Garberville is the first major town that you enter when you come into Southern Humboldt. And they're just telling me how everything is closed down. And Rico, you ask if this has anything to do with the cap. I think the cap in place from the start was the issue. I don't think lifting it became the issue. I think they had people's hands tied in the beginning, because I know my friends who could not get a license. Their farm was much larger than what the cap allowed, and trying to figure out ways to make that work didn't work for them. And honestly, they told me, we're going to have our licensed farm, and then we're going to have our other farm that is going to fund the licensing that we have to do, and then trying to keep up with all the different regs. I mean, I don't think it's just one specific issue.
But
I think
that would have slowed down the corporatization, and that would have slowed down all these mega farms from coming in with bottomless pockets, but canceling out all of the small producers.
I understand the impetus of why they did it, but I don't think it helped a lot of farmers. I think it truly tied the hands of farmers. I don't think it did what it was intended to do.
No.
It leveled the playing field,
right,
Gretchen.
but as somebody who's been in the game over
Not
33
from the
years,
folks that I hear.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. What are you saying,
I watched
Matthew?
This happen. I watched it happen. I watched legalization happen. I watched Gavin Newsom and lie to everyone about the acre cap and about the lack of vertical integration. I lost nearly all of my money the moment vertical integration came in because of what was happening in the industry. I've been watching farms fold since Raw Garden put up their 20 acres in San Luis Obispo or Santa Barbara County, wherever it is. So I just think that you're wrong about that. At the same time, what I think a lot of people aren't taking into account here is, number one, change is the only constant in the universe. Nothing stays static. Secondarily, the only reason that Humboldt, Trinity, and Mendo were the epicenter of cannabis growing is because they had not enough money for law enforcement and people were hidden in the woods. And the moment legalization came, anybody at all who instead of deciding how they're going to live their life and not allowing input from the outside world is going to see that it's not going to stay up there, because the moment legalization comes, now you can be right next to a freeway. Anybody who's right next to a freeway and near a major city is going to have so much less cost on every single item. So the way trucking works is, like, if you need a double yarder of gravel, the gravel in a gigantic double dump truck is going to cost you about $20. However, it's going to be $400 an hour for that truck from the moment he leaves to fill up and goes and drops off your gravel and goes back. So if I'm in downtown Ukiah, I can get gravel for $450. If I'm up in Laytonville, gravel runs are going to cost me $2,000. The same for water, the same for soil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we saw an echo of this in a different way with logging. Thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of people moved to the Emerald Triangle primarily from Arkansas and Missouri and the Ozarks, where they cut all those trees down. And there was a thriving industry destroying the ecology of the North Coast. And once they mined all of the money out of it, all of a sudden all the mills shut down and there was mass unemployment and everybody was mad. And they were like, bring back the mills, keep cutting down the trees. We need our jobs. And the thing is, we as humans have to continually evolve. And when you see that the terrain around you has changed, instead of, rooting yourself down and planting an anchor in the ground and saying, this is the way it's going to be, God damn it, and I'm not going to change, well, life's going to leave you by. You need to see that the world around you is changing, and you need to then evolve and change yourself if you want to stay involved in the game.
Stay in it.
Yes, sir. And the thing is, a lot of cultivators grew okay weed in okay strains that would get you high and would taste all right, but has nothing to do with what's popular in the market. And they thought they were doing a great job because their weed sold it all because it was illegal. And a lot of people have fluffed their own pillows and kind of believe their own bullshit instead of really doing the work. Like, dude, I'm a 50-year-old man, man. Most 50-year-old men are getting close to retirement, just want to go home and hang out with their kids. And I have kids, man. I got hobbies. I got shit I want to do. But you know what I do? I go to sessions in Oakland. I go to events in LA. I fly my ass around to Vegas and all these different places. I hang out with young kids smoking way more hash than sometimes I'd even like to, so that I can remain active in the game, know what's current and popular now, know what's coming on in the future. And there's a lot of people who just were like, you know what? F people in LA, F people in the big city. I just grow weed up here. I'm going to live off the grid. I'm going to do my thing. And now they're reaping the reward of not being involved in the greater cannabis industry. They're reaping the reward of their complacency. And it's an unpopular opinion, but it's my opinion.
The ship has left the station is what you're saying, huh?
We have Steven to say one more thing. Steven, 20 seconds or less. What do you got?
No, I don't think it's a matter of complacency. You try to run a farm and get out to all these sessions and all that stuff and still have.
Oh, I did it, bro. I did
money.
it. I lived in Mendo. I lived in Mendo and drove my ass to LA with my weed. I lived in Mendo and drove my ass to Oakland. And I'm not saying you, Steven. I'm not saying I don't know you, sir. What I'm saying is a majority of the farmers in Northern California.
I get you, man. You know, a lot of that was when 64 hit. Like, you know, we were just blindsided.
Yes, sir.
And you know, I get the whole thing of marketing yourself. It's very difficult to market yourself, run a farm and family and you know, all that good stuff. And it's not the easiest for everybody. Those of us who have been able to do it should, I don't know, maybe say, hey, you know, no, I need to produce more cannabis. Let's go ahead and hire on some of these farms that are legendary in growing cannabis.
Steven, thank you very much for that, bro. We got to keep it moving right now. We appreciate all of your input on this, and thank you. We're very short on time, and thank you very much, Chris, for covering the story today. But coming up next, he's a cannabis wizard doing his damnedest to continue the work of the Merry Pranksters and the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. Alongside this Hogwarts PhD and tripping balls, he's also the co-host of What's Good, a cannabis flower hash and review show. And he's also a host of Radio Free Earth podcast, and he boasts over 33 years in the game for sales, genetics, and cultivation. That's right. He is the immortal Transylvanian Count himself. Oh, yeah. Mathieu St. Germain.
Happy Monday. Thanks, brother Jason. I'm trying to not crack up during my intro. I still haven't. And I'd just like to say to Steve and others, like, legal cannabis, man, it drove me broke too. I'm busted. I'm broke. So it's not like I'm sitting here on a pile of money at all. I'm just trying to, what I find is when I make mistakes or fail, like I have in legal cannabis, I like to be real with myself. And I just think that more people in the cultivation side of the game need to really sit down, look in the mirror and be real with themselves and not tell themselves a story about what's going on. So on to my story. I think this is a really important story and something that blew my mind. Products with THCO acetate could cause E-Valley lung disease, new study warns. Remember the 2019-2020 outbreak of E-Valley lung disease that hospitalized thousands of people and killed nearly 70 people? I do. It nearly ruined the vapor company that I was director of sales for. What sickened people at the time was vitamin E acetate, an additive found in unlicensed vape cartridges. Now, a new study published in the Journal of Medical Toxicology warns about THCO acetate, a potent psychoactive cannabinoid derived from hemp, saying it could potentially cause E-Valley lung disease when vaped or smoked. Products with THCO acetate, which has not been tested for safety in humans and is believed to be 3 times more potent than Delta-9 THC, whatever that means, are being advertised online and sold on the black market. THCO acetate has similar structural properties with vitamin E acetate, per the report, and that was the thing that was causing the problem. Both substances, when heated in a vape pen, produce a highly potent lung toxicant called ketene, a likely cause of the E-Valley lung disease. The study authors noted that the toxicity can be acute or chronic, depending on the dose and duration. California NORML strongly advises consumers to avoid hemp products with psychoactive cannabinoids, especially novel ones stronger than THC, whose safety is particularly suspect, Cal NORML says. CBD products may be safely obtained from state-registered industrial hemp product manufacturers, whose products must be tested for safety and cannabinoid content. Under state law, hemp products should have a batch number and label, as well as a website, QR code, or barcode that links it to lab results, providing the level of cannabinoids, total THC, and presence of contaminants. The results will also have the address and phone number of the manufacturer. Violations can be reported to the CDPH, which is a California health authority. I think this is a powerful warning that we all should listen to, and I think it really points to the fact that we don't even know what's going on with these vapor products. Even the ones that are claimed to be tested contain a bunch of stuff. We just have no clue what happens when you put it in the human lungs. And what I noticed personally, just a personal from me, for most vapor cartridges, even high quality rosin carts, the moment I start hitting them, they feel like they're burning my throat, and I can't maintain hitting a vapor cart for a few days or my throat's done. Maybe I'm the princess in the pea. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Same thing, man.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought this story forward today. THCO is something that I became acquainted with about 3 years ago at MJ BizCon. And I think that the excitement around that particular cannabinoid is the concept that it can be an aphrodisiac. Actually, I think a company out in California called Gold Drop came out with their own version of the THCO and brought it forth at MJ BizCon a couple of years ago. It was really interesting. Definitely strong as Delta 9. I don't know if it's stronger in my opinion, maybe, I don't know. But to me, it definitely gave like a really big head high for sure.
I work with various vape clients, and this is a huge issue for them because they want to be good, responsible actors. They want to make products that are safe for their clients. And people really need to be mindful. They need to speak to someone about how to vape, what temperature things should be at, what quality of the technology that they're using, their pens, the materials that go into everything. I know, and I don't know if Dr. Felicia's out there, we always talk about how, pot has never killed anyone. Well, we're doing a lot of different things to cannabis nowadays, especially how we're consuming it. And we need to be mindful and careful. Or Valley is definitely happening again. I've said this before, people don't buy it, but I mean, they stopped looking for a Valley when COVID started. So the CDC and people out there are not looking out on our behalf. And this is something we need to regulate. We need to look at, we need to police it in our own industry and really be careful of what we are asking people to do. Because as much research as there has been in the past, there's not nearly enough for these high concentrates and things that people are taking into their lungs. It's going to take time to do these studies. It does.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And this just goes to all those little gas station markets and head shops everywhere selling Delta 8 all across the country. This is basically the same thing, THCO, HHC, all that stuff. And it's only a matter of time until there's a paper study like this because the prohibitionists are out to get you.
Yes, indeed. Keeping it moving, this Northern California-based pot product extraordinaire is a serial cannapreneur known for blazing trails and doobies alike at Camilla, Canagram, Canamami.org, and the Women's Canna Awards competition, and an Emerald Cup edibles judge that knows no boundaries, forever searching the globe for the perfect cannabis and psychedelic edible experiences. She's a restless crusader for female entrepreneurship on a mission to show the world cannabis, motherhood, and executive lifestyle do go together. And come to the stage, bringing us home today, it is Manndie Tingler.
Thanks, guys. Today's article comes from Stanford Advocate out of Connecticut. The headline reads, Connecticut cannabis customers were surprised by prices. We analyzed the cost versus other states. Here we go, folks. Prices at Connecticut's newly opened cannabis recreational dispensaries are higher than prices at dispensaries in surrounding states, according to Connecticut Insider analysis of data. On the first day of legal cannabis sales, many customers took to social media to decry what they saw as prices higher in Connecticut than those comparable to products in Massachusetts, amongst other states. Finally, now I can spend $35 on a pre-roll that won't even get you high, one user said, commenting on an Instagram post by Governor Ned Lamont. But the prices right now are blowing my mind, absolutely blowing my mind, another user said on Reddit. Kevin Cranford, founder and owner of CannaConnect, which he described as a, quote, cannabis lifestyle brand celebrating the unique cannabis stylings of Connecticut. He said he heard from many friends and followers about what they felt were high prices on the first day of legal sales. The perception that prices were higher may have contributed to a muted first day of sales. The Department of Consumer Protection said that the first day of sales resulted in $359,130 in revenue for the 7 recreational dispensaries that were open. You're going to be fighting with a legacy market where people have known where to get the product for cheaper and God knows for how long, Cranford said. The prices are higher than most places around here. They're higher than Massachusetts, which is right up the street for many of us. We can just go there. A review of prices online as of January 11th shows higher price points for Connecticut for almost every cannabis product. A 100 milligram package of cannabis gummies at Fine Fettle Dispensary in Stamford, for example, costs $40. And for those of you who are not sure what California gummies cost, it's around $20. So this is almost double. Similar products also containing 100 milligrams of THC, the substance in cannabis that gets a consumer high, costs $25 at Fine Fettle's dispensary in Rowley, Massachusetts. The same as the Rise dispensary in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and $35 at Aura in Central Falls, Rhode Island. A 3.5 gram container of flour had an online listed price at $50 at most Connecticut dispensaries as of January 11th. Similar product might cost less than $5 in Massachusetts, but as much more or more in Rhode Island. Prices on THC-laden vape cartridges, were about $55 for half grams and $100 or more for 1 gram in most Connecticut dispensaries, which is on par with Rhode Island. Massachusetts, however, a similar 5 gram vape cartridge might cost $30, with a 1 gram running less than $70. Adam Wood, president of the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, said prices will fluctuate as supply and demand change. There are currently only 9 licensed dispensaries in Connecticut authorized to sell recreational cannabis, 7 of which opened for business on January 10th, and 4 cannabis growers. You're going to go from 4 cultivators to potentially, depending on how things shake out, 30 or 40 plus cultivators. That's a major change, Wood said. I think retail will also generate competition and competitive pricing. The limited number of cannabis retailers and producers allowed prices to be set at a higher level than they might be, according to Cranford. If you have a built-in monopoly, you can put the price point higher and see if people will move for it. And then if you own most of the market, you can go down as you need to, he said. They're just going to have to keep on experimenting with it. Cranford said that the higher prices may only be temporary. Prices will drop as the market begins to settle, as they did in other states. Oregon had a couple of snafus early, but now the pricing is where customers need it to be, he said. Connecticut's just not there yet. All right, folks, I know we're at the end of the show, but Connecticut, what are you doing with pricing? Anybody have any other comments on this? This is Manndie for High at 9.
I mean, I thought people in Connecticut had plenty of disposable income.
Truth.
They don't want to spend it though, Jay. Not on weed.
Is that right?
Apparently so. They don't want to spend it on weed. Well, maybe that's because they have a lack of quality there. And,
Hallelujah.
And
I just want to know, a show of hands, does anybody remember the last time that California weed was, $50 to $70 an eighth?
Right now.
I forgot those days.
Nope. I can hook you up, dude.
I got some weed for 50 and $70 an eighth all day.
Yeah, there's an abundance of Mylar brands in the Bay that are rocking $50 to $75 eighths of weed nonstop still. It's just
beautiful.
You gotta have the marketing, you gotta have the proper genetics.
I hope it's moving.
I see it moving. I see people selling pounds for $4,500 all day. I don't know if you all heard of Don Murphos. Don Murphos is cracking out $4,200 to $4,500 wholesale pounds, and they're selling all their shit for $70 an eighth plus.
Are they craft, like small batch?
They're just a curation brand. They just have a real strong social media presence, and they have a real good reputation for curating perfect cannabis every time. Like every one of their bags is perfect. Every one of them smokes perfect, smells perfect, looks perfect. It is doable, but it's going to be a smaller and smaller percentage of the overall market for sure.
We do have Michelle from the Clubhouse audience from Boston Leaf. What do you have to talk to us about on this, Michelle?
Just wanted to say that everybody knows that the best cannabis in Massachusetts you find in Maine, and I guess Connecticut is going with the same thing because my goodness, $50? That shit. Sorry, excuse my language, but no.
Oh yes, thank you very much, Michelle. Exactly. I try to tell you guys, Maine apparently is the spot.
Maine is crushing.
Spot as far as
Maine
quality cannabis on the East Coast.
Shout out to Maine. Shout out to
NorCal
Maine.
East. Man. NorCal East.
Man, I mean, maybe SoCal East, maybe. But
Maine, Senior County.
Oh man, that was good. That was good. Run that ad. Thank you guys, everyone. Run that ad, Adam. Want to grow some of the best weed in the world? Then you must start with the best genetics in the world. Go to www.dnagenetics.shop to order regular, feminized, or autoflower beans. All of your favorite DNA genetics cultivars such as Kosher Kush, Skywalker Kush, and oh yeah, Chocolate Truffle Shuffle. Boasting more cannabis awards for their award-winning genetics than any other company in the world. Remember to go to www.dnagenetics.shop to see why our terps don't lie. Thank you all for getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out. Thank you all to our audience and supporters. We appreciate you tuning in daily and enjoying listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Thank you to all of our haters for talking about us and always thinking about us, because we have the most immaculate pieces of property rent-free inside of your head. You should see these places sometimes. You're always welcome to come over. Huge thank you to our sponsors, iSpire, LAXCC, True Classic, Wizard Trees, and DNA Genetics for helping us keep everything rolling. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, and thank you to Cannabis for giving us a reason to do this all. Thank you to Cloud9 Media Partners, House of Fuego, and Zaza Simone Brown holding us down in Clubhouse for helping us create this amazing space within cannabis. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. It's America's #1 daily cannabis news show. Running
Happy
out.